Welcome in Bears Nation podcast. It is Monday, January 9th, and I have long said that if you can do a reaction pod for a very specific NFL franchise during the national championship of the college football playoffs, you gotta do it. So here we are, myself, Jake Hassan, joined as always by Kevin Lapka. This is Bears Nation podcast, and this is a celebration, goddammit. This is a celebration pod because we're number one. The Chicago Bears are your owners of the 2023 number one overall pick in the NFL draft, goddammit. I'll say it again. Your Chicago Bears, mine, Kevin's, yours, you listening, you watching, your Bears are the owners of the 2023 number one overall pick. Couldn't be more excited. I told Kevin Lapka from day one that this was a possibility, that this was the goal. Instead of winning 8 games and being in the hunt, you get that top pick and you transform your franchise. The Chicago Bears now primed to own the offseason and go into 2023 season with a full head of steam and with a completely revamped team. So I say once again, this is Bears Nation podcast. Kevin Lapka, how are we doing?
We're doing good, Jake. You know, I didn't believe it. I didn't think it was possible. You know, one of the main reasons why I wasn't aboard the tank train was I didn't think it was possible, and they pulled it off. Unbelievable. I know it's going to seem like I'm switching up here because I am just as excited as you are, as excited as everyone is, because this is unprecedented territory. We'll get into it. This is something that we may have never even seen in the NFL before. The situation that the Bears are in, this is incredible. And I think we're going to even get later in the episode to the point where that, you know, we talked earlier, right, about is that difference between number 2 and number 1 that significant? I think it might be. And that 2-point conversion that the Texans converted on Sunday in 5 years could be significant, maybe not just for them, but for us, right? So we'll see, man. But I am elated. It felt like this crazy. It almost felt like comparable to like a playoff win last night.
Yeah,
like
I would
that's an insane thing to say.
I mean, but I live in a house full of Bears fans. It was pandemonium. Like, we were watching that game. You know, the Texans have 4th and 20, and we're sitting there in the living room. We're like, we're dead. You're dead. It's all right. You get number 2. Yeah, I mean, you're still happy about number 2 overall. It's still a really good pick. But, you know, after being right there for number 1, you're like, all right, you're dead. Davis Mills is running around for his life. You're like, this absolutely ends in just some kind of disaster play for the Texans. And then they get a touchdown. And then Lovie Smith, the most conservative head coach possibly of all time, gives the biggest middle finger to the organization that, I mean, at this rate, I'm left to assume he knew he was getting fired regardless.
Oh, absolutely.
So he said, screw you, and went out on his own terms, because that's what Lovie Smith does. He plays to win. Lovie Smith isn't losing no game, especially if he's not going to be the coach next year anyway. So Lovie Smith goes out into the sunset with a win in the NFL. Who knows if he'll be back? He probably will in some capacity. I don't know.
He will.
But regardless, just gets the 2-point conversion and just hands the Bears the number 1 overall pick as the Colts literal Hail Mary attempt at the end of the game falls short. The Colts lose. The Texans win. The Bears get the number 1 overall pick. And now, I mean, the most likely scenario, I was on the show last week when we did the show, and I said, well, you have to look at the Lions with the 6th overall pick from the Rams and their own pick, which I believe is 18. You have to look at maybe the Seahawks, you know, but you want 2 first-round picks, ideally. And now you look at the Texans sitting there with number 2 overall and number 12 overall. Otherwise known as Will Anderson and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Yeah. Like that's basically what you're looking at. And the number 1 overall pick has not been traded in a very long time. Every time, though, it is a significant haul. I think we talked about it on the show, the Jared Goff haul that the Rams obviously used to trade up with Tennessee, and they took Goff number 1 overall. Regardless, the ideal scenario is for Houston to say, all right, shit, you know, panic mode time. We need this pick. This was our pick. We'll give you Seattle's pick. Cleveland's pick, excuse me. We'll give you Cleveland's pick that we got in the Deshaun Watson trade, which is number 12 overall, and we'll give you 2. You move a spot. We'll give you that, and we'll give you, I mean, I doubt you'd get a 2024 first rounder, but we'll give you a 2024 3rd and 4th, something like that, something comparable. The biggest assets, of course, being the number 2 overall and the number 12 overall, because even at number 2, you could trade down again. You could trade down. Let's say the Lions really, really love. Let's say Young goes number one. Let's say the Texans, they give you 2 and 12, most notably, and you could get into the other mid-round stuff later. But 2 and 12, most notably. Then they take Bryce Young. Let's say that phone rings again. It's the Detroit Lions, and I know people are going to say like, oh, well, should you give them that pick? Blah blah blah. Fine. Let's say it's the Seahawks, and the Seahawks want to move with you because they have that Denver pick. And let's say the Seahawks say, all right, we want to give you number 5, and maybe they want to give you 20 as well because they want the rights to draft C.J. Stroud, because let's say they really love C.J. Stroud and they don't want to miss out on these quarterbacks because they want to sign Geno Smith for maybe one more year, but he's 30. He's obviously not going to win you a Super Bowl, as everyone would tell you today, because we're all pissed that the Detroit Lions aren't in the playoffs and the Seahawks are. So you have trade down options there too to go down even farther. If the Seahawks call you with the opportunity to go to 5, and maybe you miss out on Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, but you still get someone really, really good, whether that's Paris Campbell, Pete Skoronski, the edge rusher from Clemson, Murphy, and then you get a receiver, and then it's going to be a lot of options. It's going to be a very fun offseason of trying to dissect and try to do all these scenarios of how do the Bears maximize this opportunity to get the most value out of their position and where they're at. Maybe they just hold it and take Will Anderson. I don't know, but I mean, I think you're going to have some desperate teams calling for that number 1 overall pick because they really want Bryce Young.
You absolutely will. And before we even get into that, I do want people to understand that there's been a lot of people saying, well, this was the plan all along. This was not the plan all along. The plan was to tank, but it was never the plan to get number 1 overall. I think people need to understand just how much of a miracle this is.
Well,
it required...
you could call it the plan.
Sure.
You hope for the number 1 overall. You hope it goes that well.
Right.
But
you hope the tank goes that well.
You can't say, all right, we're definitely getting number 1 overall.
Yeah, but to get that pick and have your quarterback play the way he played and have this much optimism about the team as the technically worst team in the NFL is unbelievable. I mean, it took a 1-7 record in 1-score games, right? It took selling off your 2 best defensive assets. It took a ton of injuries that I think kind of went under the radar since we've been so bad, but you kind of look back at it. Those are significant. You might win more games if you're healthy. Sure. And it took the 3rd most difficult strength of schedule. Jake, they went into this year they were supposed to have the 4th easiest strength of schedule. And then they play the NFC East, and the NFC East just turns out to be like the greatest division in NFL history this year. And you end up with the 3rd most difficult strength of schedule. So everything played into the Bears' favor. And I think Poles might have recognized that at the right time and then traded Roquan and traded Robert Quinn because he realized that the remaining strength of schedule at that point was difficult, that things weren't going their way, and Fields was still looking good, that it was a reality where they could be optimistic about the future and get the number 1 overall pick. But yeah, let's get into the possibilities here, because I say this, the good thing about having number 1 is I do think Ryan Poles should trade down, and I'm going to be very upset if he doesn't, but at the same time, it's not a failure if he doesn't. Like, the franchise isn't in peril if he doesn't, right? Because, yes, you could put yourself into a very good position if you trade down, and that's exactly what should happen, but if he doesn't do it for whatever reason, you still end up with the franchise-altering player in Will Anderson. Like, you can't go wrong. Or Jalen Carter, right? You take your pick. It is impossible to fuck this up. It is impossible to mess it up. I mean, you can mess up free agency by, paying money to the wrong guys, and you can mess up the draft further down by picking wrong players in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But as far as what you can do in the first round, you are in a win-win situation. There's no scenario where you lose. One option might be better than the other, that being the trade down. But if they don't do that, you end up with a franchise-altering player you believe, regardless. So and if you were at number 2, you probably say the same thing. So that's why if you talk about the difference between 2 and 1, you gotta move down. That is, if the draft were tomorrow, you're doing that, and I think you're doing it with the Texans. I mean, they fired Lovie Smith, I think, because of that, because of the 2-point conversion. It might have been the plan all along, but that was the nail in the coffin, as you mentioned. I think that Bryce Young is probably their guy. He should be their guy. I think the gap between him and C.J. Stroud is big enough for him to be their guy. And if you do get 2 and 12, yeah, you're in business to make some serious noise and keep trading down and keep doing it. I mean, they could trade down 2 to maybe even 3 times. Like, the possibilities are endless, like literally endless. So, sure. It's amazing. But yeah, trading with the Texans, when you just threw that out there, I had seen it a couple times before. I mean, that's got to be the most optimal, right? I mean, to get more picks, Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, and a player of your choosing at number 12, probably Quentin Johnson or Jack Smith and Jigba. Yep. Unbelievable, unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it.
Houston also has another first rounder from Cleveland next year as well, which they'll have a full year of Deshaun Watson. They'll probably it won't be as high as 12, but it'll still be an extra first round pick that you can then use if you're assuming that you're going to be better and in the playoff hunt, or if in the playoffs, and you're going to be in the 20s somewhere as well. You could then use that to move up next year as well. And Houston, they're going to be bad. I mean, they're going to be absolutely terrible again, but they don't have to give up their own first rounder. They might say, all right, you know what? 3 first round picks, done. We'll give you this year, and both that we have this year, and we'll give you Cleveland's next year. I would do that in a heartbeat. I think that's a really good haul for you.
As you should. And could you imagine, like, again, I talk about the impact of this 5 years from now, a 2-point conversion worth 3 first-round picks? Like, that's essentially what this is going to come down to. A 2-point conversion worth 3 first-round picks. But I think that's fair. I mean, you look at the return from the Jared Goff trade. I'll pull it up in a second. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Jake, research and analytics team here for Bears Nation Podcast, is going to do it for me. I believe there were 3 first-round picks involved in that trade, in the Jared Goff trade from 2016. I can't remember exactly which ones it was in the terms and conditions of it, but it's not outrageous. It's not outrageous because, again, you hold all the leverage. You hold all the leverage in the world because you can tell the Texans, hey, I'm getting calls from Seattle. I'm getting calls from Detroit. I'm getting calls from, Denver, maybe. I don't think, not Denver.
Russell Wilson actually looked like himself once
he did.
It was fired.
Indianapolis, right? And you could say, hey, these guys are willing to offer me this, and they're 3. So if you really want Bryce Young, I'm sorry, you got to pay more than them. Although you're just ready? 1 slot below. Yeah, what's the return from Jared Goff trade?
So the Rams flipped from 15 to 1. So Tennessee got the Rams first round pick in 2016.
That's a huge freaking jump. 15 to 1?
Yes.
Okay, so say it again.
Tennessee received the Rams first round pick that year, which was number 15, 2 second round picks that year's draft and the following year, a third round pick that first, and another third round pick. So that's 1, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks. Now, here's a thing to consider as well. So that was 2 first round picks.
Right.
That was 2 first round picks, 2 second round picks, and then 2 third round picks. So 6 picks total. Here's the thing with that too. This was the draft where Jared Goff and Carson Wentz were the 2 top quarterbacks. Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud are better regarded than both of those guys with a bullet. It's not close. Like, think about it this way.
Correct.
Jared Goff and Carson Wentz came from Bryce Young and Ohio State. Both have been to the college playoff. Like, it's, Bryce Young played for a college playoff championship last year. So a bit higher of a jump. So you're not jumping from 15 to 1. You're jumping from, 2 to 1. Essentially in this hypothetical situation, but the gap in those quarterbacks is much bigger too. You're trading for a different type of quarterback as well. Like, you're trading for guys that are much better than the 2 that were available in 2016.
So in your mind, does that almost make it even then? Like, as far as return that you could get?
I think it's definitely comparable. I think you could even demand more possibly too.
You could. I mean, if there's someone sitting out there that really thinks Bryce Young is a generational prospect, right? And I don't think anyone thinks that. I don't know.
It's the Texans.
It's the Texans. They're gonna mess up. But if he were Justin's size, yeah, he'd be a generational prospect, right? But the size is gonna scare a lot of people away. I promise you it will. And there will be discussion. There will be discussion further on about C.J. Stroud, I think, and how big that gap is. I think Bryce Young is going to be selected first, but there will be discussion because the size thing was super real when it came to Kyler Murray back in 2018. Sure. I remember talking about it during draft season for months, and then people were just like, well, you got to bank on the talent. I think the same thing is going to go for Bryce Young, but you're right. These quarterbacks are significant enough, and they've done enough in college to where I do think a team is going to be willing to pay extra for that because of their track record. The thing, you talk about trading down twice, then you better hope that Will Levis's stock goes up as well. I mean, we all believe that Will Levis is going to have the same exact draft journey as Zach Wilson, right? He's going to do something stupid in pro day. People are going to get caught up with the, with the size.
Well, it's already starting. I mean,
it's already starting.
You got, who is it? Kuiper or McShay, one of them two, here saying that he's the number 1 overall prospect.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine. Thanks, Kuiper and McShay, because if you trade down, then you might get a team like in the middle rounds, right? Who say Tennessee, maybe. Tennessee, right? Sure. Carolina, who's at 9, who's like, you know what? So say you trade down 1 to 2, right? And then say Seattle jumps Indianapolis, they want to trade with you at 2, and then you get 5, and then Carolina comes calling and says, hey, Will Levis, we got to get him now, and then they jump up to 5, and you still get 9. You could still get like a million first-round picks and a very impactful player for your team. It won't be Jalen Carter or Will Anderson at that point, but you're getting a Jackson Smith and Jigba or a Miles Murphy or somebody really good, a top 10 pick after times. Like, the possibilities are endless there, and it gets better and easier if there are more quarterbacks that people are super enticed about. And honestly, like, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Anthony Richardson, why is that his name? Why am I blanking on his name?
Yeah,
that is his name, right?
Yeah.
Anthony, if someone falls in love,
Brandon Peterman, but
it's not Brandon Peterman. If he runs like a 4.3 at the combine because he's
people
super athletic,
physical
traits,
yeah,
people are gonna say Lamar Jackson. Boom, we're gonna move up for him, right? So it's possible. The thing is, so let's just get into it right now, okay? Because we haven't addressed it, and there's been a lot of conversation about it.
16 minutes into it.
Brad Spielberger said it on your show today, on You Better You Bet, and I saw, or not, it was BetQL Daily with Joe O and Joe G and Aaron, and I heard it on Twitter. What are your thoughts on them even considering taking a quarterback? Do you think it's even worth the consideration? Do you think it's worth your mental space to even think about it if you're Ryan Poles? Because I don't think it is, but I feel like I'm now in the minority in this, that you shouldn't even consider it.
So over the last couple days, I've definitely seen more. I've seen it become more, I don't want to say popular, but like more people have said it than I originally had thought. Like a week ago, there was like one stray person here or there. It's definitely become more, let's call it mainstream. It's become more of a mainstream thought in the last couple days for sure. And really in the last 24 hours. Here's the difference. I read a couple of the reaction pieces on The Athletic this morning. Kevin Fishbane, Adam Johns, John Greenberg, and every single one of them said, you have your quarterback. You have the guy. You're not picking a quarterback. Now, these are guys who are there in the locker room every single day. They measure the vibes. They measure, the team chemistry, how everyone's feeling about Justin Fields. And even the guys on the roster. I mean, Dave Montgomery's cutting across Justin Fields' press conference, give him a hug. Justin Jones is saying in his season 9 press conference, like, yeah, we have, like, this is the dude. This is the franchise quarterback. Brad Spielberger, very smart, very respected. I get floating the notion out there from his standpoint, because I know PFF, they consider everything. They run the numbers. They run all the projections. I get where he's coming from. I will say I also think we need to consider that this is a leverage play by the Bears.
Is it though?
It could.
What
could
leverage
not.
do you really gain?
I
What
don't
leverage
think
do you really gain?
yet. I don't think I don't think Poles or Cunningham or anyone's making calls being like, we might take a quarterback. Yeah, I don't think that's happening yet. I think it would happen closer to draft day, if at all. But it could be smoke. It could just be, hey, let's try to, start this now, get this train rolling, boost the value of this pick so people think, oh, crap, might they take it? Like, maybe we do need to trade for this pick. Make the Texans sweat a little bit at 2, because the Texans could be sitting there, feet kicked up. I mean, they have to find a GM and a coach first, but the Texans could be sitting there like, oh, well, they're not taking a quarterback anyway, so we'll just wait. If you start hearing these rumors, and maybe that's why you haven't heard Poles or Eberflus go, no, we love Justin. Like, this is the guy. We're not taking a quarterback. Like, you let those rumors permeate, and you kind of let them, marinate a little bit, and then the Texans start to sweat a little bit. The Seahawks start to sweat a little bit. These teams below you start to go, oh, maybe we shouldn't take it for granted they're not taking a quarterback. Again, I don't think that would happen. It's been 24 hours, but I don't think it's impossible. I don't think it's completely outlandish to think that this is a leverage play by the Bears. And, I mean, good on them to not stomp it out right away either, because then you're keeping your cards to your chest, as you should. This early on, keep the cards to the chest. I am not of the belief that they'll take a quarterback. I'm not going to laugh in your face and say, haha, you're an idiot. But I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say I don't think so. Based on everything that we've heard, based on everything from reporters, from the players, from the team, it seems like they love Justin. I think Justin said the right things also. He said, I don't really care about a rushing record. I'm a quarterback. I need to go and work on my passing this offseason. I think he said the right things. I think he said, oh, yeah, if Ryan wants me to start recruiting, I'll start recruiting. But right now I'm just going to focus on myself. Cole Kmet has been very vocal about his support for Justin Fields as a thrower. So I don't think they will. I think it's kind of silly to think that they will. I'm not worried about it. I think Justin Fields showed enough this season. And again, I've been saying this for weeks. Generally, every game you watch, there was at least one throw where you're like, holy shit. Like that, like he just makes those plays. Like I think
it's almost every drive.
And I know every drive. And I get why people are like, well, the numbers. Yeah, like the numbers, Mason. What do they mean? Well, they mean that he had no O-line help. I really thought you were going to laugh at that. That's disappointing. He had no receivers. And, I mean, Cole Kmet was the only guy that was there all year for him. Chase Claypool came, did nothing. I mean, which sucks, but if he performs next year, then fine. You'll deal with it. Darnell Mooney went down injured. And, just the offensive line was bad. Like, I think we're really underselling how bad the pieces around him were. And yet he's still able to have games like the New England game, games like the Green Bay game. I mean, the stretch against Miami and Detroit and New England and Atlanta, where you scored 30 plus almost every game, at least 29. I think that's more indicative than anything. Another year with Luke Getsy as well, because I don't think Luke Getsy is going to get hired in this cycle. I think he needs at least another year before he's considered. But regardless, my point being, I think Justin Fields is the guy. I think they are committed to Justin Fields. I think anything we hear about a potential move on from Justin Fields is smoke and mirrors and not something that's actually, valid and something worth worrying about.
I just don't think you gain an advantage from it, from even the smoke and the mirrors, right? Because like these some NFL GMs are stupid, but I don't think they're stupid enough to really believe that the Bears would take a quarterback. I mean, come on.
But Kevin, the thing is, like, they don't have to sit there and be like, oh my God, like we need, like, call them right now. It could just be like, even if you plant that seed in the back of their mind, make them sweat a little bit, if you make another opposing GM a little bit uncomfortable, then that mission accomplished.
I think it can be accomplished regardless, though. I don't think it matters because it's not about the Bears. It's about the Texans, right? That's what it's about. Like, these teams
and
need
the Texans are a terribly run franchise.
Yeah, so like, what do you...
They're a team that would bite on that.
No. I'm saying these teams behind the Texans need to be more worried about who the Texans are going to take and sweat about that, and then be like, oh, well, if the Texans are going to, take Bryce Young, then we need to jump them.
Domino effect. So you think, okay, even let's say you're the Seahawks. And you start thinking, okay, well, there's no way the Bears are taking a quarterback, but the Texans might believe this, and they're really stupid, and they might do something really dumb, so we got to get ahead of that. Like, we got to get ahead of this before the Texans do something really, really dumb and drive the price way up, so let's just do this now. Like, it's a domino effect. Like, it's all Kevin.
What'd you say at the end there? You got cut off.
No, it's just all connected.
Yeah, you're right.
Said, like, it's all like, even like if the Seahawks say, okay, we don't want the Texans to do something really dumb, we got to get ahead of that train, then it's all connected. Like, it's a domino effect.
I think part of it for me is this, okay? Last year, there was a lot of discussion, right, at the beginning of the hiring, or immediately after Eberflus and Poles were hired, about, well, they didn't mention Fields by name in the press conference, right? And there was all this questioning about whether they were really all in on him. And then it was enforced by the moves that were made in the draft and free agency by really not putting great pieces around him. And there was a lot of question in the beginning of 2022 of whether this staff was really all in on him, right? And now he plays his ass off. Now he proves that he is, worth your value, that he is, the best quarterback to ever play for this franchise, all these different things, breaking all these records. Now is the time where I simply just want conviction. I want him to go, the press conference is tomorrow. So if you're listening to this after the press conference came out, I'm sorry. I want him to go to that press conference and say, Justin is our guy. The goal this offseason is going to be two things: to improve the team and to improve the team around the centerpiece of this franchise, Justin Fields, any possible way we can to put him in the best position possible. And no, that's not a selfish thing to say, right? That's exactly what you should do.
Yep.
That's exactly what I want to see. I want conviction. I want to put all this to the side of, these questions and these rumors. No, come out there and tell me that this is your guy. This is the guy who's going to be here for 10 years. We're going to do everything we can to build around him and win his Super Bowl with him, because that's what you have to do. I mean, I know there's going to be people listening to this who are still going to even ponder the idea of drafting a quarterback just because it's present to them. Like, I think people need to understand that, first of all, if they were to do that, it would be the most colossal tactical error in NFL history. Like, consensus around the league, around the entire world, the most colossal tactical error in NFL history if they were to draft quarterback. But the other thing is, if you say you are somebody who has the secret scouting report to Bryce Young and you think he's going to be the second coming of, I don't even know, Patrick Mahomes, sure, let's say Patrick Mahomes, right? At this moment, the probability that either of those guys, Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, the probability of them being great is still lower than the probability of that Justin Fields will be great. People don't understand the risk that you are taking by taking a quarterback in the first round, and even at number 1. I wrote down the list, all right, we're going to do a little math here, of quarterbacks that were taken with the first overall pick since 2000. And we're gonna do the math, and we're gonna see what percentage of them actually turned out to be worth that pick. All right, starting 2001, Michael Vick, I would say yes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, because he didn't actually play that long for that team. But sure, yes, we'll say Michael Vick, yes. David Carr, no. So we're 1 for 2. Eli Manning, yes, 2 for 3. Carson Palmer, no, 2 for 4. Alex Smith, no, come on, don't make the case for Carson Palmer. Don't make the case.
Okay, so
don't make the case either way.
2 and 2 so far.
Yeah, well, 2 for 4. 2 for 4.
Right, so 2 and 2.
Yeah, 2 and 2. Alex Smith, no. So you're 2 for 5 on hits and misses, right? I'm not putting out. You really gonna argue Alex Smith?
Alex Smith,
come on.
He was originally drafted by the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, but worth a first round pick? No.
Wait,
no. Wait, was Alex Smith drafted?
Yeah,
he was drafted by the Chiefs.
Because Rodgers went 11 and Smith was 1. Yeah.
Not worth a first round pick.
A first round pick or number 1 overall?
Or sorry, that is number 1 overall. He was number 1 overall. Sorry, these are all guys number 1 overall.
It should have been Rodgers, probably.
Yeah, so not worth it. All right, so we're what are we? We're 2 for 5. Yeah, 2 for 5. Jamarcus Russell, obviously not. One of the biggest busts in NFL history. 2 for 6. Matthew Stafford, yes, 3 for 6. Sam Bradford, hell no, 3 for 7. Cam Newton, I mean, it's close, but because he went an MVP, we'll give it to him. So 4 for 7 here. 4 for 8. Andrew Luck, yes, 5 for 9. Jameis Winston, no, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think we're at 5 for 10 now. Jared Goff, no, 5 for 11. Kyler Murray.
Well, I don't know, because Goff took him to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but no. But that offense with Sean McVay and the weapons that they had, I think they could have put Jimmy G in there.
Though.
Yeah, but first overall pick? No. I mean, we're talking about, this is the guy who's supposed to be immediately a top 10 quarterback. Right. So I think we're 5 for 11 now. Kyler Murray, I'm not ready to say yes. Are you?
Yeah. I mean, he's been too injured. They haven't,
Jury's out, but we'll say 5 for 12. Joe Burrow, 100%, 6 for 13. Trevor Lawrence, 100%. Or not 100%, but I think we're gearing that. Yeah. I'd call it a yes. I think we're at 7 for 15. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 7 for 15. Do the math. What's 7 divided by 15? 46? 40, 44? That's your chance. That's your percent chance that you're going to hit on a quarterback with first overall. And the chance that Justin Fields is going to be great, certainly more than that after what I saw this year. So that's all I need to know, right? I mean, for those who are still thinking about it, don't take it out of your mind. It's not going to happen. And I just want to see this conviction. I mean, wouldn't that be nice if you heard that tomorrow?
I would still say that there might be an overall plan for, even if they don't say it, bang the table like that. Who's to say that they're not meeting with Justin tomorrow morning before this press conference and they're telling him privately to his face, hey, you're the guy no matter what you hear, no matter what is said this offseason, no matter what you see, what you hear, what anyone else says, you're our guy, we're committed to you, we're not drafting someone else. Even if they don't say it to us, doesn't mean they're not saying it to him. I know, and I get it, we want to hear it, and it's nice to hear, and it's nice to have that public acknowledgement that they're invested in him and that he's the guy. But it might not be. This is the NFL draft is so much based on agents telling certain guys something else. It's certain teams telling certain guys. I mean, look at what Levis and Kuiper, what's happening with that. that's happening exclusively because Kuiper has a relationship with Levis. And so he's saying, yep, this guy's number 1 overall, trying to get him the most money possible. Like, that's what the NFL draft is. It's like so much bullshit that you just have to sift through for months. I mean, until April. So just because they don't go up there and bang the table for Justin Fields tomorrow, I'm not going to be like, oh, what the hell? They completely sold him out. That's BS. I'm not going to get upset about it. Tell me what your plan is. And you know what, Kevin? Honestly, what they do, like the signings and maybe trades that happen. Because remember, free agency is before the draft, right? Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Free agency opens before the draft. So if they go out there and they sign Orlando Brown Jr. and or Mike McGlinchey.
That's a great point.
And Alan Lazard to be your 4.
Ugh.
Let me make it clear, to be your
Sure,
4.
fine.
Then, guys like that, if they do stuff like that, then you're like, oh, well, they would invest all this in a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
Off the bat. Like that, then that's like, no matter what said, oh, well, they're doing the moves to protect Justin Fields and make him better. Like, then that's indisputable evidence.
100%.
What do you think? You think they're going to sign Orlando Brown Jr. to protect Bryce Young on a rookie contract and take up all that money now while Orlando Brown Jr. is in the prime? Or even let's take it one step further. You think Orlando Brown Jr. is sitting down and being like, oh yeah, I'll commit to a rebuild with Bryce Young and maybe not win anything for 2-3 years after I'm coming from Kansas City. Yeah, I'll sign up for that. Or Mike McGlinchey from San Francisco. Yeah, I'll sign up for 3 years to just, dick around. That's not happening. They'll say, hey, we want you here to protect Justin Fields. If you think he's the guy, great, let's make a deal. Here we go.
This is a great point.
Indicative.
No, you're 100% right. So the thing we haven't really talked about is, we talked about so many times, right? You lead the league in cap space. But what you're saying is this, okay? Your largest selling piece in free agency is Justin Fields, right? When you are talking about or trade selling piece, right? We talked about all these wide receivers you could trade for. It's not really. I guess it's not the same as a trade because you have to convince players to come for free agency. With a trade, it's out of their hands. If you are going after OBJ or Alan Lazard or Shane M says Jake is spitting, you're right. He is spitting. Jake's on one right now. He's on one right now. Or Orlando Brown or even guys on the defense, right? Or anyone. You are selling it around, hey, you want to come play for this team, and we'll pay you top dollar because this team will be in the playoffs for the next 4 years because of Justin Fields. We're building something here surrounding Justin Fields. If you are a player who's 28 years old, half the reason you're signing to a team is money. The other half is because you want to play for a winning team. What free agent would want to sign here and then say, and sign here in March, and then a month later get shafted by, hey, we're entering another rebuild because we're drafting a rookie quarterback? No one. So you're going to use Justin Fields as the largest selling piece in free agency. So you're right. Like, they can't turn away from that once that happens. 100% a great point when you talk about that. And again, I said this in the beginning. I don't think it's ever happened in NFL history where a team has had the number 1 overall pick, has had a budding superstar at quarterback, and leads the league in salary cap space. It hasn't happened before.
We would have seen it on Twitter. Yeah, we would have seen it on Twitter already if that were the case.
Yeah, I mean they have full control over the offseason. And that's it's unbelievable. So look, I just again, just don't even ponder the thought of drafting a quarterback. But you're right. And here's the other thing I was going to say. I forgot what it was. These trades for these draft picks, they don't always happen on draft night. Like the trade for the 49ers, or the trade the 49ers made for Trey Lance happened March 26th. I mean, free agency.
Was it really that far ahead?
Yeah. I just looked it up. With their March 26th trade, the 49ers signaled that Garoppolo will not be the long-term starter. They moved up to number 3 to select Trey Lance.
Wow.
Like, free agency only opens, first week of March, second week of March? So this is happening a couple weeks after free agency. This could happen sooner than people think, right?
Wasn't the thought always, though, the difference wasn't the thought always that, because, I mean, everyone thought they were going to take Mac Jones at 3, too. That Jimmy G was still going to stay for at least a year, and then they were going to go, because they still had a Super Bowl roster, Wasn't the thought always with that they were going to keep Jimmy G as the starter for a year at least, and then transition to the rookie?
But yes, you're right.
In a second year.
You're right, but I think again, it's just the idea that still happened at that point.
Correct.
Right? And I don't I wouldn't be able to say a majority of them happened on draft night, a majority of them happened before the draft. I can't tell you that. I don't have enough data, but these things do happen earlier than you think. So I would, if I were a Bears fan, I'd be saying, look, this is something that could happen, and for good measure. The earlier it happens, the earlier you know what you can do with these picks that you then have. You can do more scouting. You can plan out your draft strategy better. So if honestly, you don't want to be in a situation where you get caught in the stress and the jumble of draft night, where you do make that trade, because it's a hard thing to be on the phone and trade down multiple times and still make the right choice at the draft, because you have a big board, but you're trading down. You're not looking at the guys available, right? It's just, you want this to be done ahead of time. Have your draft planned out, and if you have those picks already in mid-March, you can maybe even make a trade for a wide receiver before the draft, right? For one of these T. Higgins, one of these Devontae Adams or Mike Evans. So
well, then consider, especially let's say if the idea with Houston that I floated, you get Cleveland's 2024, if you get 1 or if you get 2 and 12 this year from Houston, and then you get next year's Cleveland, that's an extra first-round pick that you have at your disposal too.
Exactly. Or mid-round picks, right?
Yep.
So, I don't know if Mike Evans is going to be a first-round pick. So say you get a third rounder on the trade.
I was leaning.
I know what you mean.
T. Higgins specifically.
Yeah, T. Higgins specifically. Insane. There was one more thing I had. I also so how much, what would you say the pressure rate is on Ryan Poles right now? I said this is a win-win situation because he can't really go wrong with number 1 overall. Again,
Agreed.
There's a better option, but if you do stay complacent and you're an idiot and you get Will Anderson, fine, whatever. That's a franchise-altering player. But, I mean, the bar for Ryan Poles has just been raised to the freaking ceiling. He has to get this right. This opportunity is golden, and he can't fuck it up. What do you think the pressure is for him?
So, I agree and disagree with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. The bar has been raised because you do need to nail this, and you do need to play this right. I agree with you that if you sit pat at 1 and you take Carter or Anderson, just that's the safe move. That's probably the safe move if you don't get a deal you like or whatever. The safe move, it's the not sexy pick. It's the
it would be disappointing.
Pick, but
it would be disappointing.
Right. It would be because there's so many other needs on the roster that you definitely need as many draft picks, as many assets as possible. But it would still be, like you said, to your point, a defense-changing player, whether it is Anderson or Carter. But you're right. Has to nail it. I think the bar has been raised, but I still think the pressure is minimal. Because of the situation you're in, where all things fail, you still just pick a player at 1. You still just pick one of those guys.
Yeah.
But because I think also I don't know about you, I won't speak for you, but I have confidence that Poles will do this right. I have confidence that based on the previous draft, his only draft, obviously, I have confidence that he can figure something out, because also like you said, at number 1 overall, and the beauty about being on the clock already is these teams can call you tomorrow, tonight, and try to start, feeling things out, feeling what the, what the situation is. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of pressure, but I do agree that the bar is raised. I wouldn't say it's at the ceiling, but it's definitely raised.
I mean, I just think, again, this is an opportunity that every single GM would dream of. And here's the reality of it, Jake.
GM dreams of having once and then succeeding and never being in that position again.
Correct. And this is why you say that, because the Bears right now they're in a unique position. This is unprecedented territory. This is the kind of thing, Jake, that literally creates dynasties. This is a situation and a move that allows you to create a dynasty. I don't think people understand that. Having a franchise quarterback, the ability to accumulate so many picks, to have a roster that is under the age of 25 for the next 3 years, presumably your Super Bowl window, right? You are going to have a very young team. You already have a young team. You're going to have an even younger team. You are going to have more players who are young because you're going to collect more assets. You already have 8 draft picks, and you're going to get more from trading down, right? Who knows? Maybe he trades down in the mid rounds too. I mean, he did it last year in the late rounds, right? And he found a Braxton Jones by doing that. A guy who, might not be the best, but he played every snap this year. The only player on the Bears to play every snap.
I want to talk about that really quick. Just super fast, couple minutes at most on this. What do you think about if you signed Orlando Brown Jr. to play left tackle, and instead of signing like McGlinchey, you just move Braxton Jones to right tackle?
That's the optimal idea. I mean, that's what you should do. I mean, talk about value. Like, I'm getting fuzzy about Braxton's history at right tackle. Had he played it in college? I know I am Scox in the chat can tell us. I don't remember. I cannot remember. I probably should remember that. Which in that case, then fine. Sign McGlinchey, stick Jones at left guard. Sure, like that's fine. Like I just think, again, you're right. Like, left tackle is the most important position on that line, 100%. And Orlando Brown Jr. is a juggernaut at that position. He's going to be the most coveted free agent in the class, and you can afford to probably put. So G Station says left tackle only. So he only played left tackle in college. I'm gonna need I'm Scox to get in here. This guy, he's the leader of the Braxton Jones fan club. I don't know, but yes, that idea is 100% optimal. Again, this is a guy who's getting paid like under $1 million a year. If that guy can be your starting right tackle or starting whatever player on the line for the next 3 years, instead of having to pay $14 million to Mike McGlinchey, 100% you'd rather do that.
Sure.
So
okay, I just wanted to see, because that was something I was thinking about earlier today. What were we talking about? Oh, polls in the draft. Yeah. I mean, obviously, trading down is the optimal solution here. Like, that is your go-to. Correct. Get a haul, get as many picks as possible, and go from there. That's the optimal solution. But I mean, if you end up with Will Anderson, that guy's really good. So
but I think the reason why, like, you're saying that, and again, this is why I'm trying to reiterate.
What I'm trying to do? I'm trying to temper expectations, because I don't want to give my head. I don't want to be like, Houston's going to give us 2 and 12, and Cleveland's 2024, and you're just going to get a haul, and you're just going to fleece them, and then because I'm trying to go back to my Bears roots of, I need to expect disappointment so that I'm not just crushed on draft night. I need to expect this to just be Will Anderson and then move on. Like, I hope it's not. I hope they do swing a trade. I hope they swing a trade and they get 2 to 3 first-round picks, as well as a slew of mid-round picks as well. But I'm trying to brace myself now for the disappointment.
I mean, you're not wrong for doing that, but we also do have you kind of alluded to it. We do have sort of a reason to believe that things are different now,
sure.
Right?
I have confidence in polls.
You have polls, and I really hope Ian Cunningham stays, but he's already getting interviews with the Cardinals and the Titans, so it probably looks unlikely. And that guy's really good, and I think people around the league recognize that and respect it. I don't remember where I was going with this now. I completely lost it. What was the premise of this point? I completely forgot my point.
We were just talking about draft strategy and polls jumping around in the mid rounds, and then we got to Braxton Jones, and then I derailed.
Oh, here's what I was gonna say. Like, again, the reason why I still say it's a win-win, but now the more I say it, the more I think it's not true, because
you're starting to doubt yourself.
I'm starting to doubt myself. Like, again, it's a disappointment. It is a disappointment if you don't trade, 100%. But I was saying that, yes, Will Anderson Jr. has the capability to be a franchise-altering player in the same way that Micah Parsons has been for the Cowboys. But then I look at the Cowboys, and I'm like, Cowboys aren't a dynasty. They're not in the makings of a dynasty. They also did just have their quarterback miss 6 weeks and still lead the league in interceptions. So that's part of the problem as well. That is part of the problem.
Their coach is a huge doofus.
He is a doofus, but he's not. He's a doofus, but he's just led them to. He's probably not good. That team has enough talent to win 12 games.
They have failed upwards under McCarthy.
I would agree. But I think just the point is, like, how many teams have had that franchise-altering edge rusher, but have really gotten to the Super Bowl because of it? And I'm not saying, one player is going to lead you to the Super Bowl outside of the quarterback position. It's not really how this league works. But if you want to talk about, again, the goal, I know for Bears fans, and this was the goal for Ryan Pace, because I think he understood how desperate fans were. The goal is to just win the Super Bowl and then never look back, right? Win the Super Bowl, and the future is fucked, but we don't care because we won it once, right? Rams. I don't think Rams. And look how that's turning out for them. Great fucking example. Look how that's turning out for them. I think Ryan Poles, and exactly what did the Rams do exactly? Mortgage all of their assets, all of their money to win it once. And now that is a team that is going to be so bad for the next 4 years that your superstar head coach is willing to walk away from the team because he doesn't want to deal with it. That's how bad they messed it up by mortgaging everything. I think Ryan Poles has this identity that we are going to build this from the ground up. We are going to build something sustainable. So, hey, we may not win it tomorrow, but when we win it in 2024, we are going to be in contention to win it from 2024 to 2028 because we have younger players. We have, speed guys who stay healthy, right? All these things, the hits principle, all these different things. Right. I think they have the right strategy.
The point is also, though, you need a lot of things to go right still.
And Jay in the chat says we sound like talk radio. Boy, you must not listen to talk radio. That's all I got to say to you, Jay. Also, you must not listen to talk radio.
Jay was complaining about Jalen Carter saying he's not a first-round pick, too. So
that's crazy. See out there.
Sucks. Braxton Jones played 17 games and was
We're also
objectively solid as a fifth-round rookie. So great. See you out there, Jay.
Confirmation from I'm Scocks that Braxton played strictly left tackle for Southern Utah. So that doesn't mean he can't switch. I do want to struggle
because Nano CBD, who we still don't know if it's Chris Nano or not, but
it's not. It's
brought
up.
Not paying A-Rob was the right move, which true. He kind of is probably just washed.
Who, Donald?
I don't think. What?
Aaron Donald?
No, Robinson.
Oh, A-Rod. He put A-Rod. A-Robinson.
A-Rod is also not Aaron Donald, Kevin.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, you're right.
Anyway,
I don't know why I put that together.
The Rams did mortgage everything. I don't think they're finished. Like they might be bad. If everybody gets hurt again, they might be bad. But they still have one of the best defensive players in the league, arguably the best receiver in the league, a still old but still above average quarterback. Like they and one of the best.
You're talking about Stafford might retire, but
if he doesn't.
Sean McVay's going to walk away regardless, I think.
Right, but I mean, like, if you get the right coach, you're like, I mean, if you have the right players, the coach is like, you just got to find the right guy. Like Kingsbury, I don't fucking know. But anyway, like, the Rams have, like, top-level talent still. They might not be finished. I think they probably are, but, like, they have enough top-level talent where they could still be, like, a playoff team.
Sure. But you understand the point, right? Like,
yes.
they're doing this the Chiefs way. They're doing this the right way. They're not spending a shit ton of money on a bunch of guys. They're spending money on the right players. They're building through the draft. And hey, where did Brian Poles come from? Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Justin Fields probably will never be Patrick Mahomes because Patrick Mahomes is going to be the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. And that's a significant aspect to that. But still, it's the philosophy. So that's they're doing it the right way. Do you want to do grades for the last 10 minutes here?
I think we should save grades for next week.
Okay.
Because I want to dig into because I want to do everyone. I want to do Poles, Eberflus, all like most of the players. I want to really get into that, and I want us to like really take time for that. So let's do everyone's favorite. Let's do some stadium talk to wrap it up.
Oh, here we go.
Kevin, you've been team keep them in the city the entire time. Like that, you've been banging the drum for that. I agree. The optimal way is to keep them in the city. I mean, I'm not opposed to Arlington Heights if it's cool and if you make it a whole big experience. But if they go through with what the city proposed and the renderings we saw today, that's sick. Like, I was watching that video. I was impressed. I was like, this is really cool. This is really, really cool. Like that, what this rendering showed today, and obviously it's not going to be exactly, 1-to-1 for that, but I mean, that's on par with Allegiant, with SoFi, with,
U.S. Bank.
U.S. Bank, with the Atlanta, is it still Mercedes-Benz? Or is it called something else now?
Mercedes-Benz.
But it's on par with some of those best fields that are awesome. And somebody else, so like, then you're in contention for a Big Ten title game as well. Like, because their deal with Lucas Oil is up in 2024 after this next Big Ten title game. So then that puts you in contention for that, for a Super Bowl. If they go with that, with what you saw today, and if you haven't seen it, go on Twitter. You'll find it pretty fast. It was really, really cool. Yeah, really.
It was really cool, and that was
shipped out a lot of Modelo for that.
Yeah, that was a pretty incredible video. Here's what it comes down to, right? I don't know who sees that and in a perfect world would choose that over Arlington Heights. If both were built, what reason would you have to choose Arlington Heights? Being in the city is more optimal for everyone, okay?
Sure.
I know a lot of you people listening to this live in the northern suburbs. Guess what? There's people from Englewood who like to go to Bears games. There's people from Hyde Park who like to go to Bears games. There's people from the South Parks and the South suburbs. Do you know how long it's going to take those people to get to Arlington Heights? It will take them 2.5 hours at least to get there through traffic, right? And Soldier Field is a central location. It's in the city. There's something special about being in the city and being in that atmosphere. And there's a lot of people who agree with that, but they're like, well, you're not going to have a world-class stadium. What we saw today in that rendering is a world-class stadium. I don't know how you say no to that. Here's the only issue, right? This is the only reason, in my opinion, because I heard someone on Twitter today say, well, the Bears want to own their own stadium so they can make more money and all that. They're going to get a lot of the money if the Bears host Super Bowl, if they host. I'm not a financial, advisor. I'm not going to break that down for you. But at the same time, the Bears are they're the fifth most valuable franchise in the NFL. Right? You don't need more money to achieve the things that you want to achieve financially. At that point, it's just greed. You don't need the money. I mean, they want the money, but you're not the 12th most valuable franchise in the NFL looking to be the most fifth valuable franchise in the NFL because you're getting a new stadium. You're already a top 5 valued franchise in the NFL. So that's not the issue. The issue is that proposal probably wouldn't take that long, but it would take a year. And that would mean you're spending 1 year in a place you don't want to be right as the window is opening for fans to be the highest demand to get tickets. The Bears are going to be a very good team for the next couple of years with a superstar quarterback that everyone wants to see. No one wants to go to Champaign to watch these guys play for a year, even if it does mean the creation of that stadium in that video. It has nothing to do with Champaign. It has nothing to do with Champaign. Now, if they went to Ohio Stadium, that's different. Old school, 100,000 fans. I know, I'm just kidding. But, I mean, seriously, what's the alternative if they were to build that? That's my only worry because, trust me, I want this to happen more than anyone. But what do they do if it takes a year and they have to spend another year somewhere else? Right when Justin Fields is going to be a potential MVP candidate, right when your team is going to be contending for the playoffs, have meaningful games to play in December, ticket prices are going to go up. That's my only worry. Unless they take the approach. Here's what they could do. All right. One off. I don't know if it's possible from a construction standpoint.
Tough.
And one off season, you build the outskirts of it, right? And another off season, you build the dome over it, and you do it year by year, but you build different things by year. So you say, hey, next off season, we are just going to build a sportsbook around it. We're going to build all the stuff you saw in the video around it. And then the bigger project is probably putting the dome on top of it. Next year, we're going to get all of our men together. We're going to put a dome over it. Year after that, we're going to finalize everything. In 3 years, you do it off season by off season by off season, and you have a complete project, but you allow yourselves to stay in the stadium. I just think it's worth considering. I don't think that they should rule this out. That's my point. I don't think that they should be dead set on Arlington Heights. That video was really impressive. It has everything you want. It should be in consideration.
Yeah, I think it should. I don't hate your idea of doing it like piece by piece, and you do the vitals and make sure you can still play games there. Or you do try to do everything at once over a summer or something, and you play the preseason games in Champaign or something.
You think it's possible to do all that in one summer? I mean,
definitely not. Knowing Chicago construction, no, not at all.
Yeah, but you would hire, third-party contractors and stuff probably.
But who knows? No, I mean, it was really impressive. If they go with that, I think everyone would be really happy. I think even at their core, everyone would like that too, because I mean that then you expand that whole area and the parks and the museums and everything. So amazing. That would be really cool. I think that would be really awesome. It looked really good. It was really impressive. I agree. So. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's a good response. It's a good response by the city to be like, all right, fine. You know what? Screw it. Here's everything you want. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. I think it's interesting. We'll see what happens.
It's worth talking about. With a little stadium talk.
Yeah, I mean, we got 7 good minutes out of it, and that was talking stadium. All right. Well, this has been. I gotta clear my throat.
Attaboy.
This has been Bears Nation Podcast. This has been the end of the regular season recaps. I mean, it wasn't really a recap because we didn't talk about the game at all, but nobody wants to talk about that game anyway. But we will continue doing episodes. We will be back probably next week. Yeah, we'll do grades next week. We'll do season-ending grades next week. So we will be back next week to do season-ending grades. give out the flowers, give out the awards, give out the grades, talk about how everyone did. So join us for that. We'll be here, Bears Nation Podcast, same place. And follow us at Bears Nation Pod, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Follow me at Jake_Haas2. Follow Kevin at KevCharles112. We will be back next week. Not stick around. Go into your night. Go enjoy the college football game. But come back next week to yell at us about giving out the wrong grades and the wrong awards and the wrong superlatives for the offseason and the season that was. Number 1 overall pick. And as always, bear down.
Bear down.